to the 12 steps on the path to freedom. I am very grateful that we are all here today to experience this journey together. In the Bible, it says, where two or more are gathered, there am I. That's from Matthew. And I also like this quote from Socrates, which is, I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think.
Mm.
So here's the set aside prayer. We are setting aside, letting go of our preconceived notions, and having an open mind and an open heart. So please, God, set aside everything that I think I know about myself,
My
my brokenness,
brokenness, my
my spiritual
spiritual
path,
path,
and
and
you
you for
for
an
an open
open
mind
mind and a
and a
new
new
experience
experience with
with
myself,
myself,
my
my
brokenness,
brokenness,
my
my
spiritual path,
spiritual path,
and
and
especially you.
especially you.
Amen. So this week's assignment was on step 11, prayer and meditation, which we did do this. We did do this step in the beginning, but I'm going to go over some different stuff so it doesn't feel like we're just repeating it. And it's a big part of the 12-step path. And it's very integral to being a conscious human being. Step 11 on page 59 says, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Bill says sought because we are seekers. We begin our way of seeking when the unmanageability is first made aware to us in our lives, likely at pretty young ages. For me, it was around the age of 4 or 5. I understood unmanageability, even within my family dynamics. I was not able to consciously know it for what it was at the time. And of course, it's only through hindsight and experience that I made the realization about how my life was unmanageable. But I had my first conscious awareness of a higher presence in an emergency room after an accident that I had had. I slipped in a puddle of water at the back door and I crashed into glass milk bottles, cutting both of
Oh,
my knees open. Now,
mm,
I don't know how old everybody is, but I was grew up in the time when we would have milk delivered to our houses and you'd finish the milk, you'd rinse the bottle and you'd put it out and the milkman would come and switch it out. So these glass milk bottles would literally be left at the back door to exchange for the full ones. And we were playing in the kitchen and I slipped in a little puddle of water. It might have been winter, I don't remember. And I crashed into the milk bottles, cutting open both of my knees. And we had to go to the emergency room. And the emergency room doctor came in to my room. And I guess he was pretty prepared to teach a 4-year-old how to place her focus somewhere else so he could peacefully stitch 28 stitches in my knees.
mm,
He showed me such kindness and compassion. I still remember him to this day. And it's one of my oldest memories as a child. I don't have a ton of memories, but I do remember this doctor. And he was whistling and he was telling me that there was a bird in the emergency room and I needed to find the bird for him because he knew he wanted to distract me. And I remember thinking or knowing that there wasn't really a bird in there. I actually knew he was doing the whistling, but I played along with it and he did get my attention when he did all that whistling and, find the bird and um he stitched me up really well. I don't remember even any pain in that moment. I just remember this doctor doing this wonderful strategy in coping with an uncomfortable situation. And he taught me in that room that there are two roads to travel, the one of pain or the one of peace. And like I said, I don't remember any of the pain from that event, but I do remember his ability to get me to change my focus from the injury to the little bird in the room that I couldn't find. And That ability to switch my focus became a very important tool that I put in my spiritual toolbox way, way back. Like I said, I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I've used it many, many times in my life. So it's a lesson in perspective. We can focus on the fear or we can focus on the faith. And that's what happened in that emergency room. He taught me literally how to change my focus from one thing to another. He was a great, great doctor. So most of my learning experiences have come from my hindsight, from looking in my rear view mirror to see what has transpired. And learning in hindsight involves analyzing past events to extract the important lessons from our successes and failures and converting experiences into wisdom to guide our future decisions. Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, reminds us one thing's for sure: if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting. One definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. Any journey of personal change and transformation must first start with ourselves and reflecting on our personal experiences in a structured way, such as the step 4 inventory. It's essential to making any lasting changes in our lives. Socrates, the Greek philosopher, advised us to live by the guiding rule of know thyself, while poet Khalil Gibran further expands on the Socratic philosophy, saying, knowledge of the self is the mother of all knowledge. So it is incumbent on me to know myself completely, and to know its minute details, my characteristics, my subtleties, and even my very atoms. If we are to effect lifelong and positive change in our lives, the journey of personal change starts with an intimate understanding of ourself. A word of caution, though: please don't beat yourself up in the process of recovery. I want this to be less about fault finding and more about recognizing areas of growth and improvement. Canadian leadership author and speaker Robin S. Sharma said it perfectly. The real trick in life is turning hindsight into foresight that reveals insight. I really love that statement. To reveal your true self, you need to accept yourself for who you are right now. Then reflect and learn from your own inventory answers. You are all over those worksheets, waiting and acknowledging for the adjustments. Continue to do steps 10, 11, 12 daily. If you stop now and didn't continue with this workshop, but did use those 3 steps, you would still experience a significant change, but not the full freedom that finishing ensures. Meditation, contemplation, and prayer is the key to getting there with your higher power for the support you may need. Remember, God protects us from nothing, but supports us in everything. On page 58, chapter 5, How It Works, sought through prayer and meditation to prove our conscious contact with our higher power as we understood it. These are our tools, the methods with which to improve our conscious contact with our higher power. This is rather important. If you're going to remember nothing else from this workshop, remember you have tools in your spiritual toolbox. And remember what they are. If you want to take the time and draw a little toolbox and write down what all your spiritual tools are, that's a fantastic way because we forget. And as we get older, we forget it even faster and we forget even more. So make up a little drawing or make your own little toolbox as a reminder of what you have accomplished. Step 11's purpose is to meditate to improve our conscious contact with God. According to the Mayo Clinic, the benefits of meditation can give you a sense of calm, peace, and balance that can benefit your emotional well being and your overall health. You can also use it to relax and cope with stress by focusing on something that calms you. Meditation can help you learn to stay centered and keep your inner peace. And these benefits don't end when your meditation session ends. Meditation can help take you more calmly through your day and may help you manage symptoms of some medical conditions. Step 11 says its purpose is to improve my conscious contact with God. And then Bill offers his two suggestions. Number one is praying only for knowledge of his will for us. And number two is the power to carry that out. Buddhists meditate to train the mind, reduce suffering, and achieve enlightenment, also known as nirvana, by cultivating awareness, wisdom, and inner peace. It serves as a tool for understanding the nature of reality, breaking free from attachment and harmful emotional habits like greed or hatred. Meditation also promotes mindfulness, emotional balance, and mental discipline. The ultimate goal for a Buddhist student is to reach that state of enlightenment or nirvana, and meditation is a key technique to achieve it, which is why Bill studied a lot of Buddhism. And that's, I think, where Bill got his idea to really implement meditating into the 12 steps. Bill acknowledges who we are as human beings. Our mind is flawed, and so is our will. We have looked at this as obsession in the first step when talking about our addictions and about the unmanageability with regard to our human nature. It's the cancer of our souls. We are powerless. We have no choice. We need to know better, and then we need to do better. And the way step 11 ends is perfect for us because we're praying for knowledge of our higher power's will. Our minds need to know what the concept is if I'm going to be guided by it and be in alignment with it. Guided by it is meditation and placing myself in alignment. We have the exercise of our will that makes us very specifically human, and more importantly, it gives us the power to carry it out. In a handful of short reflections, Father Richard Roy gives us a set of lenses and navigation beacons to help us to live well in these uncharted and turbulent times. Here's his explanation of liminal space from his first post entitled Between Two Worlds. Liminal space is an inner state and sometimes an outer situation where we can begin to think and act in new ways. It's where we are betwixt and between, having left one room or stage of life, but not yet entered the next one. We usually enter liminal space when our former way of being is challenged or changed, perhaps such as when we lose a job or a loved one, during illness, the birth of a child, or a major relocation. It is a graced time, but often does not feel graced in any way. In such space, we are not certain or in control. The global pandemic we faced is an example of an immense collective liminal space. And he continues with the very vulnerability and openness of liminal space allows room for something genuinely new to happen. We are empty and receptive, erased tablets waiting for new words. Liminal space is where we are most teachable, often because we are most humbled. Liminality keeps us in an ongoing state of shadowboxing instead of ego confirmation, struggling with the hidden side of things, and calling so called normalcy into creative question. So, back on page 83, Bill says, when we are on a journey, we regularly enter into liminal space, which means we are in the hallway. We have come out of one room and we are going into another. Meanwhile, we are standing in that hallway. We have left one room and we are not where we want to be, and we aren't where we were either. That puts us in liminal space. Some people might know it as limbo. I hope you can fit that into your own experience and recovery journey on the 12 steps path, regularly finding yourself in an in between place. It is kind of what neutrality feels like. And it reminds us of Bill's paragraph. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from our higher power, who has all knowledge and power, which is a foundational sentiment in traditional Jewish theology and is often described as the belief in God as the creator, sustainer, and ruler of the universe, who is intimately aware of all human deeds and thoughts. Bill continues with, if we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of its spirit into us. And that thing that makes us human is that we have a mind that can know and a will that can decide voluntarily to take free action. As humans, we need knowledge and we need power, and that is why the step is built properly. On page 85, it tells us, if we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. Wayne Dyer taught that being in the flow means aligning with the natural, effortless energy of the universe by releasing control, detaching from specific outcomes, and trusting our creative source. Being in the flow is synonymous with being in spirit, recognizing your connection to the intelligent, creative energy of this universe. To some extent, we have become God consciousness. We have begun to develop the vital sixth sense Bill wrote on page 85. Moving a few centuries back in time, we can find a similar sensibility in the thinking and practice of Jewish mysticism. In order to develop an awareness of God's presence, the Kabbalists developed many techniques, one of which is meditating on the Shaviti, a spiritual formulation that begins with Shaviti Adonai La Negdi Tamid. Hope I said that right. I have set the Lord always before me. And that would be Psalm 16.8. It signifies keeping God in mind to find stability, peace, and security in order to avoid being moved or shaken by life's challenges. When we live in God consciousness, our goal is to find a reaction or response that incorporates an awareness of our higher power. Be still and know that I am God. And what of that sixth sense that Bill added to that paragraph? The fourth dimension is the non material dimension, the spiritual dimensions by Bill's definition. What would the sixth sense be? We have five senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. And this sixth sense, a material sense, and we call it different names such as instinct, intuition, a mother's knowing, and even inspiration. And our bodies have instincts. That's from the brainstem. My mind has intuition, the ability to know something that others don't necessarily know. It doesn't come from logic, it comes from a knowing, a spiritual shift. And lastly, we have inspiration, which I described as a breath of the Creator inhaled. The breath of our higher power, metaphorically speaking, is inside us. That reality is the honing point of our humanity. And it is that we have choice and free will. We have looked at that pretty deep in step one, where we learned our free will is not actually free. It has a cost. And try to give yourself the gift of silence so you have a chance to really enjoy the experience of power. When you merge into the silence and become one with it, you connect to your source and know the peacefulness that is God. Be still and know that I am God, says the Old Testament. This passage is used for meditation and two-way prayer for many people. The key words are still and know. Mother Teresa describes silence and its relationship to God by saying, God is the friend of silence. See how nature, trees, and grass grow in silence. See the stars, the moon, and the sun, how they move in silence. We need silence to be able to touch souls. And everything that's created comes out of silence. Your thoughts emerge from the nothingness of silence. Your words come out of this void. Your very being emerged from emptiness. All creativity requires some stillness. Your sense of inner peace depends on spending some of your life energy in silence to recharge your battery, to remove tension and anxiety, and to reacquaint you with the joy of knowing God. And we do this with implementing 10, 11, and 12 daily. In silence, we make our personal and conscious contact with God. As Melvin Goddard reminds us, God's one and only voice is found in silence. Bill also tells us that God is nothing or God is everything. I believe God is everything, and that includes you and me. So, according to Bill's definition, I am God and you are also God. If it makes it easier to accept, the alternative could be I am of God. I am filled with God. How can I not be one and the same? A Course in Miracles teaches that humanity is not God in the sense of being the creator, but rather that we are extensions or effects of God, created as one with the divine power and sharing that divine loving nature. Herb K says in his workshop and recordings, God's spirit is in us, and to some extent, we have become God consciousness. We were given the choice back on page 53. God is or God isn't. And that is my only purpose in having free will. In order to choose God or choose there is no God, the choice is always mine because I have free will. When I choose my higher power, I am choosing to be in alignment with that. And when I choose no God, which I did for many, many decades, I was out of alignment in nearly every area of my life. That is the total truth. And I was choosing my ego over my higher power. And this is tricky territory because, as Bill says, that is where unmanageability and powerlessness reside. We don't have any good options on our own power, so I desperately need willingness to specifically choose my creator because the knee-jerk default is to choose no God because I have chosen my ego instead. So the formula is to search honestly and think honestly and search for it fearlessly and diligently. Bill states this is the proper use of the will in step 2. My will has to choose to be in alignment because it is not an automatic response. When we looked at step 3, the spirit and the decision to be in alignment with the power, steps 4 through 10 removed obstacles to that alignment. Step 11, the effort to bring us to an awareness of our alignment within the principles of reality. Therefore, the proper attitude is to think honestly, search diligently, and search fearlessly, and put the effort in to do that work. So step 11 is God-centered, and it is predicting that you already believe in a power greater than yourself out there. We practice, we have a practice, and we practice our practice. And we work at it, which reflects a mindset where routines are refined and high standards are maintained through dedication. Bill says on page 86, It would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. As we know, step 10 is a spot check. In the 12 and 12, Bill said, we have found that justified anger ought to be left to those better qualified to handle it. Few people have been more victimized by resentments than have we addicts. The quick inventory is aimed at our daily ups and downs, especially those where people or new events throw us off balance and tempt us to make more mistakes. So, with step 11, when we retire at night, we constructively review our day. The optimal word Bill used was constructively. We aren't doing this to judge ourselves harshly, and we are not being negative about it. The purpose is about a review to see where we fall back into old behaviors and patterns. And we look at it in detail so that I may have a better version of myself, to keep in check those mistakes I make so that I may correct them in the new day. It is a review in order to learn. Bill asks us key questions for us to ponder. Some are positive and others are liabilities: selfishness, resentment, dishonesty, and fear. From the 10th step, we start the 11th step with a broader sweep because Bill wants to incorporate all of the steps into our consciousness. And after making our review, we ask for forgiveness in order to be released from this regret or remorse and the negativity and judgment that comes with us. So we ask, what would correct the errors of our ways? Bill then has us ask ourselves, do we owe anyone an apology or an amends of any sort? Perhaps we didn't check in with our step 10 during the day for whatever reason. Or maybe we didn't see that we were disturbed during the day. Now, at the end of the day, and things are winding down, as do our emotions and responsibilities, we can take a few deep breaths, relax, and take a deeper look at our day from others' perspective if needed. And Bill cautions we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. Bill isn't concerned here of our mental state. He knew of our selfishness, self centeredness as the default position. Bill says we don't take this negative view as it would diminish our usefulness to others. That is the center of the bullseye of the turnaround. I have an interest in a relationship with other with a capital O and a relationship with others with a small o. So, step 10 was the primary tool of emotional sobriety in contrast to emotional sobriety using step 10. The primary tool of emotional sobriety in steps 11 and 12 are the spiritual tools of spiritual sobriety. Bill says we commence this way of living as we clean up the past and we get into step 9, then we begin to use steps 10, 11, and 12 daily. We commence this way of living while cleaning up the past. Steps 1 through 9 are the program of recovery. Steps 10, 11, and 12 are the program for living and going along with the flow. We are channels of light and of grace and of the divine. Life and reality flows through us. In step 10 and step 11, we retire at night to do our sweep to keep our channel clear. Whether you spend 1 minute or 20 minutes, it doesn't really matter. I personally have never been very successful with a formal practice of meditation. On page 86, it says, upon awakening, and clearly that is generally in the morning, but as you are beginning your day, whatever that is for you, think about the 24 hours ahead. Then take a sweep of your day planner, even if in your head. I use my phone calendar. I look for alignment. for difficult areas or overbooked appointments. I want to be prepared. And on page 86, he says, before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self pity, dishonest, or self seeking motives. This is a prayer anytime we are speaking with intention to our higher power, other than with ourselves, whether it is verbal, out loud, or said in our heart. This all qualifies as prayer. And Bill suggests before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self pity, dishonesty, or self seeking motives. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Bill is reinforcing that this is a thought process, not a silent process. This is a conscious decision to give this your full attention using our brain's cognitive processing. So we were given the gift of a brain so we can use our thought processes in life in order to be placed on a much higher plane where our thinking is cleared of negative motives. This is about discernment, understanding, and judging things clearly so we can distinguish truth from error or our higher power's will from personal self satisfaction. Key characteristics include wisdom, insight, objective evaluation, and the capacity to recognize hidden motives. It promotes making wise, informed decisions rather than impulsive ones. So we apply this wisdom and we think about the issues and questions, and maybe even decisions that we have to make either for the day, for much longer, as in bigger decisions about our lives. There will be days that we have to face indecision. We are paralyzed by the choice of direction and can't make the next important move. Bill writes on page 86, in thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. So we ask our higher power for inspiration, intuition, guidance, and signs. We relax in the reminder that we have made the choice to accept guidance from our Creator. No struggle for the right answers or choices. The struggle tells us that we are not relying on our choice to let our higher power have that steering wheel. And we keep in mind whatever we struggle with will persist. So we relax and take it easy. We don't struggle, says Bill. Struggling against what is, reality as it currently exists, often leads to increased personal suffering, whereas accepting the present moment can reduce, though not eliminate, pain. Accepting what is does not mean liking it or being passive, but rather acknowledging the reality of the situation to make better decisions. In short, the conflict between how you want things to be and how they actually are is the root of most unnecessary suffering. Bill said, we are often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. And we can attribute this to our handing over our desire to go alone, to go it alone. On page 87, Bill says, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. We usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. These few passages are worth going back and highlighting to refer to when you are struggling with your 10, 11, and 12. We ask especially for freedom from self will and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. And Bill says we are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why. He wrote that on page 87. We go with the goal of helping others, not ourselves. Only we can ask for ourselves if others will be helped. Therefore, not making it about ourselves. And this is the turning point between the focus on ourselves to others. This is done in a healthy way, not in a people-pleasing or codependent way. This is the balance that we seek when we talk about emotional sobriety and independence and interdependence. We look instead to go through our day aware of the people around us at home, at work, or in our communities. And I'm responsible to pay attention to my community and to contribute. On page 87, Bill says, as we go through our day, I pause when I'm agitated or doubtful, and I ask for the right thought or action. I think what Bill is really referring to so far is a kind of step 10. We constantly remind ourselves that we are no longer running the show, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, Thy will be done. The perfect prayer to address my free will. I'm, and I'm talking to my higher power. I am open and willing to take direction, and I will align myself with reality as it is flowing. Thy will be done. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. And it is not so much that we are more efficient, it is that we have handed the work over to our higher power. So here's the key. The big book says we think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. We ask our higher power to direct our thinking. God, please direct my thinking, we pray. Then we begin thinking and considering about our day ahead, and we pause to listen. And we continue listening as we continue to pray. We listen to our thinking, we listen to our feelings, to our sensations, and we listen to our consciousness. We listen to our awareness of what is happening, and we continue to pray for the truth, not our version of the truth, but the actual truth. It is not necessary to do this in a passive way. It is active listening matched with directed thinking. I listened for my intuition or instinct, for some awareness of some suggestion or direction I should go in. Of course, this is not an actual voice, even though it is referred to as a wee small voice, which is a wonderful visual picture, but it is more like a tiny whispering sound. This means we have something like a buzz, an energy shift. There's a sense of flow of being in the right place, a simple nudge from a higher energy. So this whole practice is listening, listening, listening to what is going on in my consciousness, not emptiness or silence. We don't distance ourselves from our minds, but instead actively and proactively engage with my mind at the beginning of my practice. And keep a notepad by your bedside so that if there is a thought or suggestion of some kind of direction, you don't spend unnecessary time during the day trying to remember it correctly. The big point is to listen for your guidance from your higher power. The light is coming in, the darkness is being diminished, but then the light is also shining in me, to me, through me, within the flow, for me to others around me. And when I heal, my circle of people also heal around me. So that is our presentation on meditation, 10, 11, 12. And if anyone would like to share about their meditation practice or any tips or helpfulness or just about anything that you think might help, please feel free to do so. Or if you have any questions too.
This is Jill. I'll go ahead and share.
Hi, Jill.
Hi. I learned something new recently that I've incorporated into my step uh, 11 work, and
Hmm.
it's called micro movements. And
Micro movements.
yeah, it's not necessarily as new as I thought. It's new to me, but it's been around for a while. But I do a lot of body work, and some of the work I do, I've learned is helpful if I go slower. You know, these
Mhm.
exercises, when you watch them on the YouTube, they're like, they're tense and they're so whatever, but I know I have to build my strength, and I understand that that's part of getting older and saving your bones and stuff. But I'm also working in recovery, and so I've been trying to do the exercises and the strength training slower, which has really been helpful. But then I got even slower, and I realized even around boundaries and things, I don't keep good boundaries around time for myself.
Mhm.
I let other people decide about, and I give in to people needing my time. So in working with that, I realize I want to slow down in my exercises. And some of the exercises are actually, I've been encouraged to do some really, really small exercises. So I looked it up, and there's a whole bunch on micro movements. And
Okay.
so they're actually strength training, even though you're going really slow. And these micro movements help to inform the muscles, um, and give them awareness so that they actually get stronger. It's fascinating. There's a lot of research on it,
Wow.
and they recommend it for seniors, which I understand because as we age, there's so much like chair yoga and things where you can't move as much, but you can do so much through this. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. I found it extremely helpful for me, and I'm just learning, just beginning. So it's called micro movements.
Is this something you took a class on, Jill, or was it just you went
No,
on
I
YouTube?
actually I discovered it through physical therapy. So I'm taking physical therapy, and some of my exercises, he's always said to go slower or make little movements and things like that. And sometimes he used it's just a micro movement. He says it, but I don't believe he was thinking of it in terms of this whole movement of micro movements. So anyway, I did some Googling on it. I don't know, it must have been God just talking to me saying, what is all this about? And so I did my
Wow.
own Google research and found out it's huge.
Wow. I've
So
never heard of it. It sounds very,
yes,
it sounds like, I don't know, when you was talking about, it sounded a little bit like Tai Chi. Is it kind of like that?
no,
No.
it's
Hmm.
literally, okay, I'm going to show my video. Here, you guys get to meet me. Okay, here I am. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jill.
Um, okay, so a micro movement might be on my hands on the table. And if I'm having pain in my hand, maybe arthritis or something, it would just be like this.
Wow.
But there's so much involved. And if you go slow enough, it's so meditative. It's so, you start to feel things that you just don't feel because you go. And I never thought just doing this was fast, but it is. There's so many feelings that get ignored. So I consider, and I even before I realized this, I did consider I wanted my movement to be part of my meditative practice. So I was
I
already
do.
thinking along those lines. And this just took me to another level. And I'm still learning. So
And it's a fantastic way to meditate if you're one of those people who can't sit still. and
Yeah,
meditate. You know,
it
some people
really
just can't
helps.
do that or they fall asleep, you
Right.
know. So
And
that would
there's,
be a good way to keep your
right.
focus too, you know.
Right. And there's got to be some kind of curriculum and stuff. I haven't really talked to my PT about it if he even knows about the concept, but there's really a lot out there. So like I just make my own micro movements up. So like for example, I want to stretch this neck because sometimes I get neck and I
Hmm.
got pains everywhere. I'm quite a
Hmm.
pain queen. But
I'm right there
anyway,
with you.
so so anyway, so like I'm working on my posture and it's really coming along. And so I realize that I really need to stretch my neck. So a micro movement would just be a gentle to where I start to feel the stretching. I used to think like I gotta feel the biggest stretch of all, but
Right.
that's just not really helpful. It actually causes a lot of tension in the thinking and the muscles, and I've the micro movements take me further along in my body work. So anyway, you
Yeah,
want to do any own
I think
thing?
it's a fantastic idea, especially if you can't do the bigger movements.
Right,
And you know, sometimes when we can't, as we get older, and we can't do some of those things that we did when we were younger, we just give up. We say, well, I guess I'm not going to do that anymore.
right.
But with that, it sounds like you could do it. You could do it laying in bed
You
practically, I
can.
would think.
You can do it
Yeah.
anytime, even in the car. You could do a little bit of, just a gentle. And I
Yeah.
feel so loving towards myself when I do it. So it's
Wow.
just so cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll have to all look on YouTube for it. Or you'll have
There's
to
a
make your own video for us.
Yeah, right. There's a lot out there. I don't know. I didn't take anatomy or all that stuff. I thought I might one time just take anatomy so I could speak to my muscles, speak
Right,
because
right.
so much of uh my work, the body, mind, spirit, so much of it has to do with the body for me.
Yes,
So
yes. It can absolutely show up that way.
yeah.
And you know, it's great that you found a nice little niche that fits to you because not everybody meditates the same way. And we get this, I know I've felt the pressure of the big book with the meditation part because it's big and Herb really stresses it. And a lot of people stress it. And I've just never been a great meditator. And
Yeah,
after 20 years of trying, somebody said to me, whatever meditation style you're doing is your way of doing it. There is no wrong way.
right.
Because I kept trying to get to the place where, okay, my mind's going to be blank and I'm going to have peace. That never happened. And I just kept trying and trying for literally 20 years. And then I realized that's not what's supposed to happen. You cannot shut your brain off. Nobody
Right.
can. But I was expecting that to happen.
but
So
it doesn't frustrate you.
exactly. It doesn't now. It did then. I kept going, I can't get my mind. I couldn't get it to slow down, never mind be empty. You know, I was like, my gosh, I don't know how people are doing it. I wasn't cut out for this kind of work. But everybody has their own level of meditation that works for them. And some people, their mind buzzes 90 miles an hour during meditation. And that's the way meditation works for them. We can't be what we can't be. So we have to work with what we have. So we find the best way to incorporate a meditative state into whatever thing we can, like with you with the micro exercising or Tai Chi's really good for people. Um, some people walk and meditate, they go into the woods and it becomes this whole meditative process, even though they're just taking a walk, but it's the purpose and the intention that's really important, really important. I'm going to sit in this position for however many minutes and I'm just going to try to listen to something other than my, constant thoughts. And sure enough, in between those pauses, I'll hear things. But in the beginning, I didn't realize that was my norm. So find your norms, whatever they are, and keep doing it, even if it feels like it's wrong. At least dedicate the time because the intention is almost as important as doing the actual thing, the intention that you have. Go ahead, Sarah. Hold on, Sarah, you're not unmuted.
There. Now is that
There you
better?
go. Yes, it's much better.
Okay. Um, I can't sit still for 30 minutes or even for 10 minutes without my mind wandering. But I have, I like the be still. I use that.
Hmm.
Um, but I do want to say, I want to, about the idea of this micrometer. Have you ever heard of Feldenkrais? There is a type of exercise similar to Tai Chi that was established by a German doctor, Jewish doctor in Israel. He was actually a physicist and he had horrible pain. The doctor said they couldn't do anything more for him. So he went home and he just started, um, he knew about physics and how the body worked. And he started these slow movements. And he found that just by with slow movements, it helped with the pain. And he developed a whole set of exercises. And it's the idea of moving, um, moving very slowly. And you have an instructor that the idea is trying to align your brain with the muscles. We're so busy multitasking and doing things that our brain is one way and our body's over here. And he's trying to bring the two together. And when you try this, I did it through Feldenkrais. What the other lady was talking about, the micro, it's the idea of very slow movement, just turning your head just gently, and you don't do anything that hurts. If it hurts, you stop doing it, and then you come back, and then sometimes he has us laying down on the floor, sometimes he has us sitting in a chair, but
Oh,
it's the idea of moving slowly and training your brain to really communicate with your muscles, because it's like if you're what causes the pain is that your muscles are all stiffened up because they're getting too many messages at once, and that causes the tension. That's the way he explained it. So anyway, also a believer in this. It's the Feldenkrais method that I learned, and you can Google it
wow. I've
on
never heard of it.
as F is in Frank, E.L. Felden, Feldenkrais. He was a German. He developed it in Israel. And a friend
Wow.
of mine tried to get me into this years ago, 20, 30 years ago. And I knew she was doing it and it helped her too. But you could take classes. It's sort of like Tai Chi. Tai Chi is also very slow movements and standing. That's what the Chinese do. But yeah, I just look up Feldenkrais and it's very interesting. And you can do them in bed. Um, it's the idea was whatever you're doing, do the exercise slowly, really slowly, just micrometers at a time,
Wow.
millimeters at a time. Don't just push. Most of the exercises you do in the gym, you're lifting weights and you're pushing this and you're punching that. Even in the water, when we swim or when we walk, if you just it's just a slow movement and it's very relaxing. When I started it, I had back pain. And just 30 minutes with this guy, he had about 8 of us in the class. And it relaxed my back. I could get up and walk down the hall. So it, and then it's a way of just, he said, we learned to taste wine. We learned to smell roses but we never really train our brain to feel the movements of our muscles. It's just kind of like a automatic nature, and sometimes they're getting multiple signals, and if there are too many signals, then it tenses up, and that's why you get the pain. So he was trying to just teach us to teach our brain, and he said, it seems like you're not doing any work, but your brain is really having to work hard.
Wow.
You have to tell your brain, it's like learning to write with your left hand if you're right-handed, kind of thing. You've got to give this instruction to your brain very slowly, and it's very interesting. So it does work. And then just the quiet time, and I can just do it for, well, at first I could only do it for like a minute. Now I can do it for maybe 10 minutes. And I do walking on the beach. For years I lived in San Francisco, and I could walk on Ocean Beach, or just walking in a woods, um, any place where there's a garden with big tall trees. Just going and sitting under a big tall old oak tree or elm tree. It's very soothing. Anyway, I get a lot out of nature. Um, that 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 helps. It helps me. I find that rejuvenating. You have to re-nourish. I have to re-nurture my soul, and that's the way I rejuvenate myself. I wouldn't really call it meditating. I'm not sitting like they do with legs crossed and so on. It's just something that I do. If it's especially if it's a sunny day. Also, you don't you can think a memory. I've tried that too. Think of someone sometime in your life where you were in a beautiful place, a mountain or a stream or fishing, or even in a social gathering, where just someplace where you were at peace, and just call that memory back and hold that memory. That kind of helps too. That helps too. So
When I was the one time that I learned to meditate, what was very effective was the person who guided me through the meditation talked about a room where you felt very safe, especially as a child. And I remember it was in a country home that my parents had that my father got on the GI Bill after the war, World War II. And the wallpaper was these clowns with balloons and, kinds of really things that, and I remember it. And it was amazing that I could, through this meditation, this deep thinking, pinpoint everything on the wall in the wallpaper and on the exact placement of the tables and the bed and the types of sheets there were and everything. And it really, like, for 30 or 45 minutes I was able to like think through this entire room and like walk around 360 degrees of this room. And I don't know if the point of the meditation was to think through problems or issues, but I couldn't. I mean, I was so interested in pinpointing the room that I really didn't think of anything else. The
Wow.
enjoyment of it was the
The
whole
focus.
process
Yeah.
of focusing on the room of my childhood that I loved so much. But I guess there's a deeper step of that, which I never got to, which is of being in that room and then sitting and thinking of, what you're able to do with the issues that you have. And I never really got to that. So,
Yeah.
but I can still actually do that. I learned through that process of that I can actually bring myself to that room or places like that whenever I need to calm down. And maybe that was the point of it. I don't know. But I'm wondering whether I can then now take it to thinking through
another step.
these sort of spiritual sort of things. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
I would think so. I mean, why not?
yeah,
I mean, you could even do a room if you have any, religious background that really connects you to your higher power or a potential higher power, whatever you want to call it. Put yourself in that room because the purpose of the meditation in step 11 is to have the connection with the higher power. It's
right.
not about, like the gurus and all that say, oh, you should meditate this many times and that many minutes and all that. This is you got to get quiet to hear that really soft voice in the background that is giving direction that we're so busy and crazy that we don't hear, and we're living in our crazy egos. So, it's not so much, yeah, it's important because you're meditating and it puts you in a position to be able to hear that
Right.
voice.
So
So
okay.
whatever gets you to the meditative state where you can hear the voice, if it's sitting down and putting yourself back in your childhood room, or putting yourself in a church or a mountain scene or whatever it is, whatever gets you to a place where you can incorporate some silence into your life so that you can hear your higher power's message. So whatever that vehicle is, that's fantastic. It could be cooking. You know, when I cook, I get really focused, and I don't let the outside world come in, and then I can open up to some of those sounds I don't normally hear. So whatever that focus is, you want to develop that meditative practice so that you are connecting every single day. And you got to do it every day, because as soon as we get off the track, we go crazy. So the daily ritual is really important, which is why, whenever the beginning of your day is, if you're a night person and it's daytime, or vice versa, you really want to start out connecting. And you'll see after you do it for 30 or 60 or however many days, you will actually see a difference in your life, and you can't quite pinpoint why there's a difference, but you know that it came after the meditative practice. And like I said, it's not the actual meditation that's making the difference. It's the connection to the silence where the answers are from the higher power.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Rochelle. Your hand's up.
Um, I really love massage. And so I used to have somebody that came to the house, and unfortunately, I'm like a chatty Cathy doll. And so we got friendly. So I would talk all the way through the massage.
Yeah.
And now I found a place where they don't let you talk because there's like curtains between the different massage therapists. And I thought my initial thought was, this will be great. I'll be able to meditate for this hour. I couldn't shut my head off. I just could not shut the gerbils off that were running. And I kept saying to myself, you need to shut them off. You need to appreciate them, and that didn't work at all, because then I was
Yeah.
criticizing. And I went back to thinking, because there have been times where meditation worked for me, and it was always guided meditation, always.
Yes.
And I've done classes with it. I've used the Calm app.
Yep.
I found somebody that my therapist recommended, a woman named Bella Ruth Naprostak. And what I learned from guided meditation was that it was really important to me, the sound of the person's voice, because I had other friends who were big, like John Kabat-Zinn followers, and they would listen to him and they would meditate. And he's great. I just couldn't get into his voice. It didn't do anything for me. And so for me at least, and I want to go back to it now that I just thought of it, I'm going back to finding a guided meditation where you're guided by someone where the voice speaks to you. Doesn't even really matter what they say, but that calm sort of presence. And that's been really helpful for me. But I love the idea of Feldenkrais. I love the idea that
Yeah.
there have been great ideas tonight.
Yeah. And Deepak Chopra has a whole CD of
Oh,
meditations,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and I love his
Mm-hmm.
voice. It's very
Mm-hmm.
Right.
soothing. It's very calm. And he does a guided, because I do better with guided too, because it gives me something other than my own thoughts to listen
Right.
to. So guided's probably the best way for me to go. In short, I can't meditate for an
Oh,
hour. I don't do anything for an hour. I don't even like to drive for an hour. I get out and stretch or whatever. So, you know, in the beginning, if you can do a minute and you do it for 30 days, that's fantastic. And then when you've gotten that 30 days under your belt, add another 30. And at some point, ultimately, you want to spend 20 minutes a day with your higher power, which, when you think about it, in a 24-hour day, 20 minutes is not a whole lot of time to spend with
right.
the immenseness of your creator. So if you have to start small, it's okay, because if you're doing nothing, 1 minute of doing something on the lines of a meditation is going to be 100% more than you've been doing. So
I
don't,
just also wanted to mention that this Bella Ruth Naprostak, who's the one that I really like, this goes back to when she had CDs. I assume she still does, but she had different ones. And I was going through chemo. And so she had some that were specifically for people going through cancer treatment. And she had ones for people going through other situations. And they were really targeted. And for me, that was helpful.
What was her name again? Bella what?
Bella, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Bella Ruth Napperstack. I know.
Yeah.
It's a
You
hard
have to
one to
spell
even say.
that.
I know
Yeah.
that's her name. Okay.
Wow. Tough name, but that's all right. Yeah, these are all great ideas. If you're not meditating because you don't have the time, everybody has 1 minute a day. One little teeny tiny minute. Do it when you're brushing your teeth or taking a shower, or attach it to something you do also every day, so that when you do that other thing, it reminds you, I got to sit here and do a minute of meditating, because it's all it takes is 1 minute. Go ahead, Cesar.
Yeah, I got that guided meditation from Herb's class once, and it
Mm-hmm.
was pretty much what you just were telling us this evening. So I don't do my meditations daily, but when I do, say I'll put 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and the first maybe 2/3 of it will be the guided meditation that I'm kind of telling myself in my mind. And then the remaining time before the timer rings, I go into my silent retreat.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. But
So
I need to do it daily. I have not been doing it regularly.
so attaching it to something will help you with that. Something that you do every day. If you don't shower every day, then that's not going to work. If if you do your teeth every day, or you brush your hair, or you do the laundry, or you sweep the floor, there's so many ways that we can meditate without sitting in the lotus position.
Mhm.
You know, that I think that harms more people than it helps when they stop and think, I got to sit in that pretzel position and meditate. I'm never going to do it. And the majority of people don't sit like that. It's not important what position your body is in. It's important that you're listening, that you're taking that moment or the moments, and it can build up. Like I said, a minute a day. Aim for 1 minute a day for 30 days. And in a month, you'll have 30 minutes of meditation time, which doesn't seem like much, but it's establishing a pattern of doing the meditation every day.
And I
And when you
loved
get
what
that,
you told me, what you
go
told
ahead.
me once in here in this class. You said to put aside my mind and my heart
Yeah.
and just connect to the silence and to the voice of my higher power. That's
Yeah,
when I'll hear my higher power talk to me.
exactly. That, the higher power, because we have free will, the higher power doesn't want to come in and be this loud booming thing. It has to be a small whisper, so that we can make the choices about what we want to do with it. But if you can't find a minute, I can't help you, but a minute, maybe you drive to work every day, and instead of having road rage,
Hmm.
have a minute of meditation, and then go back to your road rage if you have to. But you know getting it in there somewhere. Everything in life pretty much is a habit, and we can make a habit out of the good things too, especially meditation, which is really important to the daily living of the 12 steps. It doesn't seem like it's a lot, but it's so important, because we've got to touch base with our higher power. We got to put those feelers out there. I had a situation come up today. My mother was put in a nursing home without my sister and I knowing about it. And she called me and said, what are we going to do? And my siblings wouldn't tell us where she was. And I did some digging, and I found my mother. And my sister said, so what are we going to do now? And I said, I don't know yet. I haven't prayed about it. And she's like, I need an answer. What do you mean you haven't prayed yet? And I said, I don't know what my next move is. I have to contemplate. I have to process. I have to think about where am I going to go? What direction am I going to take in this event? And she was getting so angry with me. I had to hang up the phone because she wanted me to do something right away. And I said, no, you're so emotional. You've got to stop and think about what you're doing. We're not going to storm the nursing home and say, give us some other. This is something you stop and you meditate on it a little bit. And we say, higher power, show me the direction that this should go in. I don't know the best answer. I don't know how to tackle this. I really don't. So I'm going to sit in meditation and I'm going to find my answers. And I told her, I'll call you back. And she didn't like that answer. She's not, she doesn't do those kinds of things. And she's like, you sound like a book. You sound like you're reading a book. You got to process and you got to this. I said, well, you sound like you're going to pull in to the parking lot and we're going to get arrested. So I'm going to think about it and I'm going to pray about it. And I know that I will get the right answer because I'm going to put it out there. And that's how it works for me. And I don't need to sit in the lotus position for 30 minutes to speak to my higher power. It can come pretty quick and it can come really fast. And it does come in this space after I put the information out there. It's that pause,
Right.
that pause between thoughts or between words. And in that pause, it happens.
So
And
do you have a special space where you do that?
I can be anywhere. I don't limit it to being in a special space because what if I'm not near my special space? Like if I were on vacation and I needed to touch base with my higher power, I'm not going to say I need my special chair. I'm going to say, no, I need my higher power. It's just me and my higher power. Those are the only tools you need. You can lay down, you can sit down. I could be at a dinner with somebody and go into my meditative state and connect with my higher power. It doesn't have to be so formal. But you do find it when you meditate. You find that connection that you keep going back to. And because you've meditated and found that silence where it lives, when you get in a pinch, quick, you remember how to get back in there. And that's the beauty of a minute a day for 30 days. It teaches you the process in a quick minute. So that when you're in an instance, like I was with my sister, and I said, no, I gotta consult with the powers that be. I don't make a move without doing that now. That's was my unmanageability life. I don't want to be there. So when you practice checking in for however many minutes, when you really need to check in, it's muscle memory, if nothing else. It's in the brain. And you're gonna snap right in there. You're gonna get in there quicker and quicker with each meditation that you do. Because it's a practice. They call it the practice of meditation. Because you never evolve to a place where you don't need meditation. Just like you don't get to a place where you don't need the spirituality of the 12 steps. So
The
that
one,
minute,
Thank you.
yeah, do those minutes. Go ahead, Rochelle.
I was just going to say the one thing that I don't do is I don't do it when I'm in the car behind the wheel. And I've also stopped focusing on the phone. I don't answer the phone because I realize, I don't know if anybody else, maybe it's my age, but I'll get somewhere and I have no recollection of driving there.
That's a meditative state.
Yeah, well,
That is a
I live in
meditative
Los
state.
Angeles. I don't
Well,
want to be
that's
in
dangerous.
meditation. And it's like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
I don't remember driving here, and I've been in the car,
I
and
used to
I
call
thought
it,
this is not safe.
it's
Mhm.
daydreaming,
It
sometimes.
is.
It is
Yeah,
daydreaming.
yeah.
Yes.
I
It
have to
is.
go. I have to get on the road tomorrow at 5 in the morning and be at the
Oy.
pool. So
We
I'm gonna
we
take off.
you're
But
good. Do your meditation or your
thank
magic
you.
room or whatever you need. Get your
Thank you.
practice
Bye.
in there.
See you
And
next week.
we'll see you next week, Joel. If
Okay.
anybody doesn't have any questions or if we're good, we can all
It's been a
say our
great
good
session.
nights.
Yeah, it's been a good
Yeah,
discussion.
Learned a lot. A
yeah,
lot
I
of good
hope
referrals.
I hope everybody gets some good ideas and help. And, it is an integral part of sanity, no matter if you were doing this 12 steps or not. Meditation goes back thousands of years, thousands. It's a really important thing to do. So work on your meditations, and if you come up with some more great ideas, I'm going to look up all of these. Feel free to share. We appreciate it.
Thanks,
So if you guys
everybody.
want to unmute, we'll do our serenity prayer.
Hmm.
Thanks, Dee Dee. God,
God,
please grant us
It's
the serenity
to
to
Accept
accept
the
the things
things I
we
cannot
cannot change,
change,
the
the
courage to
courage to
change
change the
the things
things
we
I
can,
can,
and
and the
the
wisdom.
wisdom
to
to
know the
know the
difference.
difference.
Very good. Great work,
Thank you.
everybody.
See
I
thank
you
look
next week.
forward to
you.
seeing you all next week. Have a
Thank
great
you.
week.
You
Thank you.
too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye bye.